Everybody, and welcome to the Marvel Plus podcast, a show where we talk the shows on Disney Plus and how they connect to the MCU. My name is Bret, aka Enigma 9011, and today we are continuing our talk on Daredevil, episode 6, named The Condemned. If you want to catch this podcast live, you can always go over to twitch.tv/Enigma9011, where it's usually live Sundays, every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can join the chat if you're a subscriber over there, talk the show, talk all the fun theories and stuff like that. But yes, today we are talking about episode 6, Condemned, and as we left our good buddy Daredevil, he is in quite the pickle right now. More of a straightforward episode in terms of storyline. We're not going to have the jumping around to 2 to 3 storylines like we have in the past, so this episode may go a little faster. We shall see. And then we also have a little bit of a hiccup for our normal scheduling, but we'll talk about that at the end. So like I said, Daredevil's in a bit of a pickle right now. Last we left him off, the cops had arrived at the scene where he was beating down Vlad along with his last remaining henchman, as far as we know, from the explosions that Kingpin has triggered at all of the different Russian hideouts to attempt to eliminate them from the group entirely and, kind of get rid of the failing side of the operation. So we're going to open back up to, obviously, this scene with Matt and the cops approaching him. They are going to handcuff him, and turns out that these cops are working for Kingpin. They're going to shoot the second command, that henchman, and Daredevil's going to whoop their asses with the handcuffs on, managing to escape them along with Vlad and save his life for the moment. So we're going to go to the opening from there, and we're going to follow up with our good friend Ben, the reporter, once again, and we're going to kind of see him making kind of like an evidence board or kind of like a web or a tree, trying to figure out the key players in this whole operation, line up his evidence, what connects with what, and he's trying to figure out how it all is working out. And Ben will play a little bit more of a role later on, but for now, we're going to kick it back over to the explosion site for a quick note here. We're just going to see our lovely cop friends. I believe later on we are going to hear their names are Blake, and I'm blanking on the other officer's name at the moment. But we're going to see them arrive at the explosion site just to kind of see if there's any survivors, investigate, and so on. And they do happen to find one who is buried under some rubble, not doing too great in his position. And we will see them essentially torture this man, trying to figure out where Vlad has gone, where he's escaped to, and try and get any information they can so they can stop him and fulfill out the Kingpin's duty, right, Mr. Moose? Right? That's what they did? So, obviously, it's a full-on manhunt to figure out where Vlad is gone so they can stop the Russians completely and move forward, because obviously they've had a lot of issues with them of giving information out and obviously not dealing with Daredevil as fully as they should have or said they would. So, there's that. So, Daredevil's we're gonna see him carrying Vlad, carrying him to safety, or at least trying to, get more information out of him. We're gonna see him bring him to an abandoned building, and tries to explain to Vlad like the whole thing with his brother, because Vlad is very convinced, obviously from the Kingpin perspective, as well as his own men saying it, just from word of mouth, that Daredevil's the one that decapitated his brother, when we know for a fact that's not the case. Matt's going to try and plead his own case and say that he didn't do that, but Vlad is not having any of it and refuses to believe him and does not give him any information. Quick sidebar right now. We're going to follow up with Foggy and Karen only twice in this episode, really, but this is going to be the only time I'm going to talk about it. They are still recovering from the explosion themselves. Obviously, last episode, they were helping out their new client, Mrs. Cardenas, and her whole apartment complex situation that was going on. Explosion reverberated or damaged, flew and affected them, whatever the situation was. So they've gone to the hospital to help Mrs. Cardenas. Pass her off to Claire. Hey, small world. And we learn that Foggy is actually hurt a little bit too. Has a gash in his side, so he will get patched up or at least taken care of in this instance. Not much going on with them, to be honest. We'll get a little bit of follow-up towards the end of the episode, just kind of their reactions to a situation, but that is about it. Now, speaking of Claire, Claire's going to get a phone call from Matt. Matt realizing that Vlad is in quite the situation here himself, obviously with the beatdown he put on him, but Vlad was also shot as they were attempting to make their escape earlier on, so he has a bullet wound that he is essentially bleeding out from. Matt's going to ask Claire for her assistance to try and, level him out, try and keep him stable. Doesn't have a lot of tools at his disposal, obviously, with being the abandoned warehouse, but somehow he's able to sense that there are some supplies there, including some flares, some duct tape, etc. So he will cauterize the wound using a flare. Fun stuff. So he's able to do this along with her kind of advice. She's not super thrilled about the whole thing just because this is the guy that had ordered for her to be tortured in previous episodes, trying to get to Daredevil. So she's kind of 50-50 on it, but knows it will be for the greater good because if he lets out the information, they can stop the whole operation instead of just the Russian side of things. So we cauterize the wound, all good. And we are going to realize that there is a cop that is now searching the building due to Vlad's screaming of the whole, flare business. Cop's going to come up. Daredevil's going to take care of him. Offers, to let him go if he calls off the backup that he has requested. Unfortunately, this cop is going to go against that, and he's going to fully warn of the situation that's going on here, the masked man and a captured suspect. Turns out this cop, just a young cop, just joined, I think he said 2 months on the force, so he's not working for Kingpin, not throwing him under the bus for that situation. He just obviously is feeling that this is the correct thing to do in his spot, so Matt will knock him out and just kind of tie him up so he's not a problem later on. So from here, Vlad's going to wake up later on after his whole, bullet wound being healed, or at least stopped of the bleeding. And Matt's still trying to get information on Fisk. Anything that he can pull out on Fisk, any info of ties to the Russians, what his whole situation is, etc. And the Russian is now a little bit more open to talking about some stuff. And he mentions how the Russians were brought into the group. Essentially, Wesley was sent or arrived with the invitation, complimenting them, their services, and kind of explaining what they could do in return for the Russians. Having the cops turn the other way, keeping their side of the business running smoothly by removing the obstacles they were running into before. And along with this conversation, Vlad's going to start giving up some names that are allies. He's going to relate one man to a mobster in the past. I think the man he was referring to, or kind of hinting at, was a guy named Leslie Shumway, who was an accountant for Al Capone. I don't know too much history about mobsters, so okay, that could have just been a throwaway. But he hints at one more name that's going to be directly tied with the Union Allied construction kind of front as we know it. So Vlad's going to kind of lure him in and will attack Daredevil. The two are going to rumble for a little bit and eventually crashing through a couple floors of this abandoned building, knocking them both out for the time being. While these two are knocked out, we're going to see more reporters arrive on the scene. I think I forgot to mention earlier, but Ben has also arrived on the scene earlier. At this point, the cops are now outside of the building due to the younger cops, report in. Ben has arrived on the scene. He's kind of jabbering with the dirty cops, as we know, Blake and his, deputy, his other cop, jabbering with them, asking what the whole situation is. And because of this, Blake or one of them has reported into Wesley and Kingpin saying that Ben is there. I guess Ben has given them trouble in the past with previous articles, one specifically about Union Allied. So they have sent their own connections of the media to try and get the word out first and kind of take this story away from Ben, or at least any credibility that he will have later on, because this media is televised media compared to the newspaper. Obviously takes a little while to produce. So they're trying to deter Ben from this story, but he's sticking with it. So Matt's going to finally wake up after his little fall here. And I guess Vlad's still alive for now until his heart stops. Matt's going to get him back up through some CPR and then pounding on his chest, because that always works. Just, give him a good punch or two and he'll wake up. But it does. So both of them are now recovered after that whole situation. We're going to cut back over to Wesley, and ESU is going to arrive, some kind of emergency service, seems like SWAT almost, and they're going to talk about that with the crooked cops. Hoffman was the other one's name. And they're also going to be clearing a radio channel for them to talk on freely. So Matt, in this situation now of reviving Vlad, is trying to figure out how are they going to escape. What's the way that they can get out of this without causing too much of a disturbance, obviously being safe themselves. And he has found a access tunnel underneath the abandoned building that they're currently in through a grate. So he finds that, and while he's attempting to remove the cover of this sewer grate, he's going to get a radio call, seemingly from the officer, the newer guy that had entered the building. Turns out it's Fisk. Oh boy! So this is the first conversation we're going to see between these two, albeit through the radio. But Fisk is essentially going to, claim that they're very similar in what they are trying to do. Obviously, they're trying to both help the city. It's just a matter of perspective, I guess, or methodology of how they're going to do it. And Fisk is going to offer one chance of, I guess, freedom, you could say, for Daredevil. If he gets rid of the Russian for him, he will kind of, brush the rest under the rug, and they can move forward from this situation. Obviously, Daredevil's not going to accept this. And while this whole radio discussion is happening, we're going to see one of the ESU agents, troops, whatever you want to call them, setting up a sniper rifle on another roof. Now, we're going to presume that this is going to attempt to take a shot into the building at Daredevil himself. Obviously, that would be the way to kind of handle it, get the situation over and done with. So we're building the suspense there. Turns out he's not, or they are not, aiming at Daredevil. Instead, they're aiming at Ben on the street, and things get tense fast. The conversation's going to escalate. Fisk is going to stop the radio call, and we are going to hear sniper shots outside. Just before the first shot is fired, Ben is going to be having another conversation with Officer Blake outside, happens to grab his arm to attempt to stop him and get more information or continue the conversation with him, and Blake is going to get shot by the sniper. Now, was this on purpose 100% because Blake fucked up technically by giving out the Russian locations? Maybe, because you would think, this sniper's kind of skilled in what they're doing. Also, it leads towards it because more cops are going to get shot by the following shots from seemingly the same sniper. If the sniper had missed Ben and wanted to actually hit Ben, the second shot would have probably hit him. So, Blake is taken out. Some other officers are taken out. Now it's wide panic on the street. Media is running around. Any civilians that were there are running around in panic. Ben is attempting to help Blake by stopping his injury by holding it with pressure, tells Hoffman to go get help, and from there we have chaos. Yippee! So, from here, we're going to get one more conversation with Claire before we make our great escape. And essentially, it's just a quick conversation between Matt and Claire about their final discussion together last episode. Obviously, things were very heated between the two. We know they have some feelings for each other. And Matt essentially just apologizes for, getting himself in this situation and being so invested in, what he believes is right, saving the city, and turning into what he doesn't want to, which is just this martyr, I guess you could say, or just this guy that goes out and just beats the shit out of people. I don't know. I could probably word this a lot better, but he apologizes for how they left things off and, essentially says goodbye to her if they don't see each other again, and he will hang up after this. He's going to attempt to lift the grate one more time, but he's really struggling, and he'll finally get some help. As the ESU bust in the lower levels, Vlad is going to, I don't know where ESU busts in, but they bust in the building. Vlad is going to help out lifting the grate, and both are going to make their escape through the access tunnels. Vlad fully realizing that Fisk is the true evil here, or the enemy of my enemy is my friend, etc., whatever you want to kind of tie this in, has decided to help Daredevil with their escape. And eventually lets Daredevil escape on his own after dealing with some ESU units. He will finally give the name that he was hinting at before. It is going to be Leland, which we know... Leland Ormsby, I believe was the name, which we know as the older gentleman in the Union Allied construct, the Money Man. Gives away that name, allows Daredevil to escape, and Vlad will have one last stand himself as he will hold off the ESU with one of their guns, seemingly passing away himself, but making one last noble effort as Daredevil will walk away, and we will get a close to this episode. So, like I said, a little bit quicker of a episode here, just because we do have that narrow single storyline going on and not as much jumping around. This definitely was a big turning point episode, as now footage has been released via Kingpin on the media connections that he has, that Daredevil is now essentially being blamed for this situation, as footage of him beating up the cops is released widespread. So Daredevil's not really in a great position right now, as obviously before he was very hidden, not a lot of people knew about him, and now not his name, but his persona is out there in full, and people are suspicious of him, so that's not super great. Karen, obviously, seeing the news, is kind of apprehensive to it, because Daredevil had helped her in the first episode with her situation. Foggy doesn't seem to be on the believing side of that yet, but obviously he doesn't have the experience that she has, so we'll have to see how this turns out. So yeah, a lot of escalation here, a lot of tense situations with Matt in the building, and then obviously Ben's situation, thinking he was potentially in danger. Yeah, it's a big turning point for this series. We'll have to see how things go from here with Daredevil, at least as the current masked man, his identity being out there, how things will go for him from this point. And we also get to see Kingpin and his not his true potential, but more of his strength and power in the city, all of his connections, whether it's cops, whether it's judges, whether it's the media. He has a lot of connections that he's in control of, so this is going to be a lot more difficult of a situation to deal with than just, oh, I gotta beat up a bad guy. Now there's a lot of hoops to jump through and things to avoid, and hopefully, things aren't woven into a web too much where evil prevails. So yeah, we will be continuing this series. Now, I mentioned before at the beginning of this episode, we have a little bit of a road bump, speed bump, however you want to call it, with the Daredevil series. If you don't know, Marvel, the rights for Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Punisher, and Iron Fist, the Netflix shows, essentially, are being reverted back to Disney. So the shows are going to stop airing on Netflix. Yee. And that is going to happen at the end of this month. Swell. Disney or Marvel, or sorry, Netflix and Disney really fucking me over for content until Moon Knight. No, that's okay. So I did say we're going to finish season 1. Unfortunately, we won't be able to continue with the rest of the series along with Daredevil until they are on another streaming service, which I assume they would be. We still, with Daredevil showing up in Spider-Man, with Kingpin showing up in Hawkeye, these characters' histories are still important, so I can't see why they would turn away quality shows, especially like this. I know some people have some mixed reactions about the later shows. I can't see them not putting these somewhere for syndication for, runtime. Most likely, it's either going Disney Plus, which would make sense, or it's going to Hulu. Oof. Not oof. Disney owns it, obviously, but oof for me because I don't have it. At some point, but there's no definitive answer as to when. So, Bret, what's the game plan for Daredevil Season 1? Well, here it is. So, the airing of these shows is going to end on the 28th of February. We have 2 Sundays until then. Marvel Plus is not going to be live the next 2 Sundays. The game plan is I'm going to watch 4 episodes the week this drops, and that Saturday, off stream most likely, I'll be recording these episodes, the Marvel Plus episodes, the plot summary, my thoughts for 7 through 10, excuse me, 7 through 10 that Saturday, and they will air the following week. The following week from there, I will do episodes 11, 12, and 13. And same thing from there, they will release. So, a little unfortunate because obviously we got to rush through it. Also a little bit unfortunate because we don't get the live aspect of it, of us chatting back and forth on what you think's going on, or just your thoughts on the episode overall. A bit unfortunate there, but obviously if I'm going to fit these all in, I have to find time to record, and Sundays aren't really going to work at the moment. So, that is the plan, is we'll record everything just off stream, and these will release just on YouTube from there for at least the rest of the Daredevil series for season 1. Obviously, if you guys, knowing this now, want to watch the rest of the shows before they leave Netflix until they enter the limbo of what platform they're on, please absolutely go right ahead. If you want to know my thoughts on season 1, you know where to go. And then other than that, I'll be lost. But yeah, if you guys are enjoying the shows, please go right ahead. I definitely recommend you guys watch the rest, like I said, before they enter this limbo, because I don't know if and when these shows will arrive. It's a safe bet to say they will, but who knows? Honestly, it's Disney's call at that point on where they want to put them, if they want to put them. We know they like to vault some stuff from time to time, so we'll see. But yeah, we got a lot of exciting stuff in the future to talk about Marvel-wise. We had a new Doctor Strange trailer that dropped Super Bowl Sunday, which looks fantastic and has a lot of references I'm excited and eager to talk to you guys about, as well as Moon Knight coming out later in March. Excited to pick up that series with you guys and try and understand what the fuck is going on with this character, as I don't know much about his history, but hopefully I can do some little homework before. As Electric Wiz Robe TJ has given me some advice at what storyline or comics they're kind of taking inspiration from. So, excited to chat about those 2 things with you guys, and obviously the rest of the Marvel stuff as we move forward. But this has been another episode of the Marvel Plus Podcast. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011 every Sunday, usually at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can join the chat if you're a subscriber over there. We'd love to have you in on the conversation. If you can't catch live, that's A-OK. Drops the very next day over on YouTube. Just search Enigma9011 or post at 12 noon Eastern. You can check it out over there and let us know down in the comment section below what you think of the show and the episode so far. Appreciate you guys giving this a watch, giving this a listen, and giving me your support through the series as we've been going along. Do your homework for next week, as we got 4 episodes to talk about, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care.